Hello and welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program we have an artist named Charles Moothart. I had the chance to interview Charles. We talk about his album that was just released, Black Holes Don't Choke. It's out now, as well as his upcoming tour that is going to hit the West Coast. He's going to be playing the Store Club in Oakland on April 24th, and on May 1st he's going to be playing Starlit Room in Sacramento. So a couple of shows in the area if you want to check that out. We had a lot of fun. It was a great chat. We went deep on a lot of his music and his work with his buddy Ty Segall and bands that they've been in throughout. I mean, we talk a lot about a lot of fun stuff. So that's going to be really cool to get into. It's good to be doing interviews again. Pretty excited about it and getting to have some of these long conversations digging into music. So look forward to that in just a few minutes. What else is going on? Not a lot going on right now for me. It's kind of getting to be spring. I guess it just sprung as we leap forward. But so I'm going to want to get out and get biking outdoors, getting through the hills, just enjoy some time outdoors. I think I'm going to take some time away from work and do that when I can. Just really great to bike outdoors, and I won't have the same activity that I did this time last year or the year before, where I was prepping for a big ride, the Wine Country Century, which I've done the past couple years, as I don't have a buddy to do that with this year. So, and it's not something I want to do solo. Really, biking 65 to 100 miles. I really freaking enjoyed the ride, but I don't want to get in a situation where I blow a tire or something and then have to deal with not having someone there to help out or and hang with. And it's a long time on a bike. I'm so proud of those rides that I did with my old friend, but it's not going to happen this year. So I need to find something to replace it with, and I need to become a better fisherman. I really want to become a better fisherman. It's fun to get out and fish and catch fish, but I feel like I just don't know enough about it and how to use the right lures and tackle and the right rods. And I have to buy more rods and that sort of thing. Took a crabbing lesson a couple weeks ago, and to learn about crab snaring, and we didn't catch any crabs on the actual lesson, so that was a little bit of a bummer. But it was fun to get out and learn. I did take notes, and I learned a little bit about that. I love crabbing. I love dropping the pots to crab, and I'm pretty good at that. It doesn't take a lot of skill, so but it does take a little bit of intuition and knowledge and kind of tools that other people don't have, which is my kayak. I get out kayak and drop the pots with my kayak, check on them every once in a while. That's a lot of fun. That's a good way to spend a day for me. So maybe we'll do that again, but the commercial crab season's open, and crabs aren't as prevalent as they were before commercial crab season opens. So I won't catch a lot, and I have enough in my fridge from the trips that I've taken out. So that's not something I'm really super keen on doing. I don't know. I just got to find something else to fill my time, another hobby, and something outdoors preferably, because I don't like just spending time inside. And I'll tell you, I've been binging Lost again. I went back to the island, and I mean, I don't know that I don't think I've really watched it since it was on back in like 2006, but I enjoyed it. And so I'm in the first season. I'm pretty far in the first season at this point, and I don't know, getting sucked back into the characters and their drama and everything that goes along with that. It was a pretty remarkable show at the time, and groundbreaking. But I don't know that it still resonates or anything with me. But I'm enjoying it, and there's not a lot else that I've found that I've enjoyed watching right now. So it is what it is. Also on this program, we're going to do a partial concert review. I went to see Hellogoodbye open up for the Rocket Summer, and both bands that I respect in different capacities. Spur of the moment sort of thing. I had bought a ticket the day of to go to the show in Berkeley at Cornerstone, and so after our interview here, we'll cover that concert a little bit before we get into the music news. So more to come on that. So let's do that. We're going to cover the Hello Goodbye part of the concert in this episode, and then the Rocket Summer in the next episode of Concert Pipeline. Split it up a little bit and have some music and some concert in this Concert Pipeline episode. But before we do, let's have a great interview, and let's go ahead and let's bring in Charles Moothart. Here's my interview.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Charles, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Your
Awesome.
week treating you well so far?
Yeah, it's a little busy, but it's been good. Can't complain. How about you?
We're getting close to weekend, so I'll take that as a win. So
For sure.
no complaints. And then tomorrow's probably a pretty big day for you. I'm sure you're excited for the release of the new album.
Definitely. Very excited. Yeah, it feels like it's been a long time coming, so super
Yeah.
stoked. Yeah.
What does a release day look like for you? What do you have planned for tomorrow as the album's coming out?
Well, actually, luckily I have band rehearsal tomorrow anyways, so that's kind of a good, distraction. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's kind of just been, this week I've been building up to just make sure I have all my pieces together and yeah, just kind of see what the reaction is. Hope people listen. But I don't know. I feel like release day also, it feels really momentous or something, but it also is this kind of funny marker of time. But I sometimes it takes me a while to check out records I want to listen to. So it's like try not to put too much weight on like the one day thing.
Not expecting everybody to just go out at midnight and
Yeah,
listen to it, and
exactly. Yeah, totally,
then
totally.
I feel that. Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
you got to word of mouth, got to play some shows, get it out there, right? So,
Totally. Yeah, I'm most exactly. I'm looking forward most to like playing shows with the record being released and people being able to like hear the music.
yeah. Have you been sprinkling in some of the new songs and shows you've been playing recently? Have given kind of
Yeah,
feels out there?
yeah, totally. Actually, right now, like the band that I'm playing with, it's a whole new lineup, and we basically are just playing only the new record, like top to bottom. Trying now, so now I'm actually doing kind of the reverse, where I'm trying to sprinkle in old songs. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tell me about the band that you're playing with now, like the lineup. How did it come together?
Yeah, so it's kind of I feel really lucky. I've always been able to play with people that I've known for a really long time, in different capacities. But yeah, like the other guitar player named Shelby Jacobson, she's like played with Shannon Lay, she played with Ogbogo, she plays with this band Two Bell Boys right now. I've been really close with her for like, the last 7 years or so. And the drummer Marley Jones, he plays in like VR Sex, he's played in OBN3s, he's played in like Richard Rose, he's played in a bunch of other bands. Corey Madden he's playing bass and he plays in Color Green, and he's also played in too many bands to list. And Paco Casanova playing keys. He used to play in Prettiest Eyes. He plays with Hoover 3 as well. So yeah, just a bunch of people that are really sorry, I'm gonna turn off I'm gonna exit my email so we don't get that sound again. Yeah, just feel really lucky to play with a bunch of people who are really experienced and like really good musicians and also really good people. And we all have a lot of fun when we're in a room together. So it's like the perfect combination. Yeah.
And how did you build the band? How did you get synced up with them?
It was kind of a step-by-step thing. Like I had an idea of who I wanted to ask. Shelby was kind of the first person in mind, and she's a really good friend of mine, and I've been wanting to play music with her for a while. And then it was just kind of like piece by piece. Corey was the second one, and then was not really sure about like drums and knew I wanted keys, but that was, I did a lot of, well, I play everything on the album myself. So a lot of the like synthesizers and mellotron parts, like I really had to piece together and wasn't really sure how easy it would be or difficult for someone, like I don't have the perspective of like a live keys player, especially with like the different instrumentation. So yeah, it took me a minute to wrap my head around who I wanted to ask to do that, or if I even was going to ask anyone. And yeah, Paco kind of popped into my head because I've known him also for 10 years, but we've never played music together. And so I was, you know, it was just kind of this thing of like sitting and stewing on things. And as I brought in one more person, it was kind of like, well, who do you think, like, who would you want to play with? Like, who would you want to play drums? Who would you want to play keys? You know, especially when it came to the rhythm section, like talking to Corey, the bass player, I really wanted to get his opinion on like who he would want to play with, you know? So that's important to me, is that on stage, you know, dynamic. So yeah, it was really kind of a group, a collectively, like one at a time, bring people in. And as people came in, like, how do you feel about this? You know, let's make this decision together. So
Yeah. And so tell me about kind of the process for you of going in and making an album like this. You said you do all of it. I know you produce it all yourself. Kind of taking it from that into the live band setting versus kind of bringing the live band in to kind of make the album with you. What does that look like for you?
right, totally. I mean, this record, I feel like more and more over time, I've really tried to separate in my head, you know, live versus record. And especially when it comes to me executing something, because in the past, what I feel like sometimes I would sacrifice certain, especially if I was making something by myself, I would sacrifice certain things that I knew I could do better because I wanted it to feel live. I wanted it to feel like, oh, this is how it's going to feel when a band is playing it. Like with certain drum, I would sit down and do a drum take and it might be imperfect. And I'd be like, well, that's how it's going to be live. So I should just keep that, you know? So with this record, I definitely tried to separate those two parts of my brain. Um, and really tried to implement some new approaches to like this record was like entirely digital. I didn't use any tape, which in the past I would usually use like a 3D8, or you know, I like to usually work to tape, but this time I was really just embracing the digital process because it allowed for me to have more options as far as like, yeah, like drum takes or doing vocal takes, doing guitar takes, you know, just letting myself work through all the kinks, you know, and find the thing that I really felt was really representative of my ideas the best. And then when I brought it to the band, like, you know, like I said, like luckily when you trust people's aesthetic choices and they're playing, it's I like to be like, okay, this is what I did, but please don't try to recreate this perfectly. Like, yes, there are certain things that we shouldn't budge on, but I did what I would do there. And if you try to do what I did, that's not going to be the same, you know? So there was a lot of freedom. Like luckily everyone in the band too, like, you know, they wanted to be true to my vision, but they're also, you know, I trust their choices. So there was a little bit of like working through certain things like, okay, well, this isn't going to be the same. This doesn't really translate, or, you know, like a really exciting version of what changed is like the final song, the final song on the album is this like really mellow kind of ballad. And we kind of have now like expanded it out to be this kind of bigger, like spacious, like more space, you know, more space for jamming, and not like super jammy or anything, but just like a little more like Spaceman 3 or something like that. It just gets really like heavy in a different way, you know? So that's, you know, it's been fun to like let it evolve. But it also is fun. That evolution's most fun when you trust the people that are making those decisions, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so when did you start making the album?
Well, okay, so I started recording it in basically I started recording it in like early 2023, but I'd been writing throughout, you know, I mean, I've tried to avoid at all costs referring to this record as like a, you know, a pandemic record or anything like that, because I don't view it that way, but you know, obviously throughout that time period I was writing, I was working on the songs. I did, you know, a few of the songs I had in my head for, you know, a really, really long time. And that's just kind of how I work generally. I'll hold on to ideas for a while. And is that siren? Can you hear the siren? Is that distracting at
I
all?
did. It's not distracting, but I did
Okay,
hear very
cool.
faintly. But
Cool,
you're
cool.
good. I mean, and I didn't hear the mail thing a little while back. Or you know,
Okay,
you're
cool.
good. So.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. You know, a lot of the song, like that's just how I kind of work. Like sometimes things will sit in my head for, you know, 5 years, like just an idea or a lyric or something. But with this record, it really was, I was trying to make an album in the beginning of the pandemic and it just was not working, you know, like I think like I had that conversation with a lot of creative people where it was just like, what do you do? What do you say right now? Like everyone's in this position where they just need to like survive, literally. You know, so whatever. Point being, in like early 2023 is when I really got sat down and was like, okay, I'm gonna write this album. I'm gonna record it. And because originally I was hoping I would have a band to play with. I didn't really want to do another record all on my own in a room alone. So but that became like the only way to do it, you know? So I just was like, okay, I need to just be real about this and sit down and make it happen. It's just time to like write these songs. And so it took me, you know, between writing and tweaking and getting the actual proper recordings down, it took me, you know, that next like 10 months to just kind of do, because I was, you know, doing it myself. And luckily since I was doing it myself, I wasn't on a studio, you know, time or budget. So I was able to kind of stretch it out. But yeah, it took me from basically like January until I think the last mix I did was in like at the end of November, really. It took me almost that whole year to make. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's cool. And the title "Black Holes Don't Choke." What does that mean to you? Like, where did that come from?
To me, it's kind of this concept that we as human beings are not more powerful than the forces of nature around us. Is kind of the genesis of that idea. It's like, you know, um, we're on this path, and if we don't kind of wise up and you know, try to correct course a little bit. And I mean, you know, when it comes to like climate change or, you know, just to the general disposition of global politics right now, like if we don't kind of try to come together and figure this whole experiment out that we are, you know, like we will, and it's just that we are subject to the natural world around us, you know. And if we destroy, like for instance, if we destroy this planet, it's going to continue on in some capacity. And, you know, as a planet, it will continue to float through the sky. You know, it's just this bigger concept of the laws of nature do not stop for us, you know. um
Right.
so, you know, obviously black holes don't choke is just a cooler way of saying that, because, you know, it just sounds a little more ominous. But, you know, it's just this
Yeah.
idea that the world is moving, the universe is moving, and we need to be in step with it, basically.
There's a lot of people that don't care and don't believe and all of that, and
Totally.
don't
Totally.
don't you know like
Yeah, and I mean also in reality too, a big point of that for me is this actual beauty that we are, you know, if we can as people just kind of recognize the how we are all in this together, and we're all one, you know. I don't want to be too like cheesy or cliche about it, but like we are all here together, you know. And it's just like the answers could be more simple and more positive, as opposed to this burying into like negativity and, yeah, disbelief, you know. So it's not even wanting to be too heavy-handed with like punishing people for not believing something, you know. But it is this thing where it's like that, you know, these beliefs don't need to be so polarizing. We're on this ship together, you know. So I don't
yeah,
know. So that's pretty much it.
yeah. And I think you called it "Love Songs for the Apocalypse."
Yeah.
I think that's pretty creative too. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a little more tongue in cheek. Obviously, it's yeah. I mean, I feel like I really wanted this album to feel present and now, and real, you know, and positive, but not overly, you know. I wanted it to feel like a realist record while still having a like and positive anthemic feeling of like it's not all doom and gloom, but it's real, you know. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And the song "Roll" on the album, you have a video for, and
yeah,
it's pretty trippy. I mean, it kind of takes you on this ride too, kind of like I felt like I need to hold on to my seat a little bit for.
yeah, yeah. I
Like,
know.
tell me about making that.
Right. You know, it's funny, just on that note, it's funny because I sent it to a friend of mine and she was like, "Oh yeah, like this is really cool. I definitely needed to like sit down after I watched it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, there's might need to be like a disclaimer for like people with like to go, or, you know, it's just like it is pretty wild." But yeah, no, I'm really, really proud of that video. And yeah, my buddy Matt Yoka, who made it with me, like I approached him to make something, and I really just wanted it to be simple. I really was hoping that we could just focus on Los Angeles cityscape, because like I said, this album to me feels really here and now for me, and this is the city I live in. And so I just kind of wanted it to feel like just a kind of homage to the city I live in. And also, you know, he's from LA. He's a big fan of LA. He's a great filmmaker. And so I knew he would be excited about that. So we basically wanted to keep it really simple. But as the idea developed, it was like, okay, well, how am I included in this? We don't want it to be just cityscapes. So then it was like, okay, well, maybe I'm like standing kind of like static in these like moving shots. And then, it turned into like, well, maybe you should be running. Maybe it's from your perspective. And so it really just kind of snowballed into this thing that was just like on the fly. And and then, Matt was like, well, now we need to answer, why is Charles running? And which, obviously the answer is never really totally clear, but roll became this thing where it's like, oh, there's a can, there's something you're drinking. Because another influence for it was the movie Repo Man, where it was like this, we kind of wanted to zero in on this like nondescript, like liquid that it's like, you don't know if it's a drug, you don't know if it's an energy drink, it's a soda, maybe it's just, electrolyte, like we don't, it's just this thing that it's just like, it's
Yeah.
roll. You drink it and it keeps you going and for somehow. So yeah, really, and even the days of shoot, we only shot it in like, we shot it in 3 days. There was one day of doing like time lapses around LA, which I was just kind of tagging along, and then 2 days of doing the actual like snorri cam with the camera connected to my chest and me running through LA. And even those days, like it just really escalated. Like it went from me like kind of walking to like mimicking this running motion to then Matt was like, no, you need to start running. And so like by the end of the day, I was like exhausted. I was out of breath. Like there's the last few shots where you can see this like desperation in my eyes that was really like it was literally there because I was about to pass out, So it's like it was this really amazing, like the idea just kind of took off on its own, which was really fun. And yeah, it's Matt and I are both so stoked on that video. And even he is like, it's really crazy how this idea really just kind of formed itself. Like we kind of just luckily tapped into this space, that we didn't even really foresee coming.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and you hit on the energy drink thing, and like that to me kind of resonated a little bit with this movie that's recent. You probably haven't seen, but you should. It's
Uh,
Willy's Wonderland. It's
okay.
Nicolas Cage, and everything you
Okay.
want from a Nicolas Cage movie. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't say a word in the whole movie,
Amazing. I'm a
but
huge Nicolas Cage fan. I love Nicolas
it's
Cage. So yeah.
check it out. My son
Okay.
is totally into it, but because he's into these animatronics, like it's like Chuck E. Cheese on animatronics come to
I know
life,
what
and
you're, yeah, I know what movie you're talking about. Okay. Yeah.
it's kind of like Five Nights at Freddy's, is which he's also into and everything,
Huh.
but it's a takeoff of that, a better version of that, I think.
Okay.
And he just pounds these energy drinks and then goes back and is all on these video games and everything and taking on
Amazing.
these animatronics. It's great,
Yeah.
and and it just had that feel when we keep going back to the energy drink thing. It was pretty cool. So
Yeah, it's fun. I definitely was I was originally it was supposed to say like roll energy on the can, which I was like at first sounded really funny, and then I kind of looked at it and I was like, I feel like we should lean. It's obviously an energy drink, right? But I was like, we don't need to. It would be cooler if it was kind of still this mystery liquid, which I think added that like perfect little like towing the line. But yeah, it's like it's very clearly an energy drink, the like,
yeah,
bright green liquid. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so Los Angeles, how long have you lived in LA, or did you grow up in LA? What's your
I
story there?
I yeah, so I grew up south of LA. I grew up in Orange County, like an hour's drive from like downtown LA. And then I lived in San Francisco for like 6 years, but I've been in LA for 10 years. So it's kind of I feel like for people who aren't from like Southern California, maybe it's basically as if I grew up in LA, but for me, they're very different places. But moving back here definitely felt familiar in a way. I spent most of my high school years driving up to LA to play shows or go to shows. So yeah, but I've been living here now for 10 years, which it took some adjusting. I love this city, but as the thing I always say about it is like if it's not for you, I'm not going to try to sell you on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's like I hear people when people have their complaints about it, I hear it and I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you at all. It's not for everybody, but I've come to really love it. And of course, my parents are still in Orange County, so it's nice to be able to check in with them. And my sister lives in San Francisco, so I kind of have like a place to be up there as well. So it's nice to have that spread. But yeah, I've been here for like 10 years and I really enjoy it.
How often do you get up to the Bay Area?
Not as often as I would like. Yeah, I feel like I really only get to visit my sister a couple times a year with intention. When I'm depends on touring too. Like we would often end up there on tour, but that doesn't always really count. You only get to like visit with people, catch up with people as much as you would like. So yeah, it's really only once or twice a year that I get to be up there and just spending time with her or like friends around the city. It's which is unfortunate, but yeah.
You played San Francisco in December, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. How was that show?
It was good. Yeah, it was at the Kilowatt, which is it's the first time I had been to or seen a show at the Kilowatt. Like when I lived there, it was not a place people played shows. I know it was before I lived there, but yeah, new management. The place is really cool. The show was good. Yeah, the turnout was good, and a lot of friends came out, which was really nice. It's nice when your friends support you, especially when you're like, I know you probably want to be home earlier than this. Then we're going on at like 11, and you're like, I can see some of my friends be like, I'm tired. I'm still ripping like a loud guitar show. So yeah, no, it was good though. It was a good show. And the space was cool, and everyone that runs that spot is really, really nice.
Yeah. And you're going to be playing the Store Club in Oakland, and you've played there before, I know. Do you like that venue?
Yeah, yes, I have played there before, a long time ago, when it was different owners too. So my friend Marcos, he is one of the, I don't know how many people are involved with it now, but he's one of the people that took it over. So, I'm really excited to see what he did with it. And yeah, I mean, to me, it's nice when these venues that were really important to a lot of people, and you hear that they're going under, and then it's always nice when someone steps up and takes on that burden, because it is a burden to be like, okay, I'm gonna carry the baton, because people need this venue or need venues or whatever, independent venues, and then when it's your friend, it's also equally as like exciting to see what they're gonna do with it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm excited to play Oakland. I haven't played a show like that in Oakland in a while. I always love being in the city in San Francisco, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited both to play the club and to play it just in Oakland generally.
For me, we would talk about COVID, we talk about venues going under and everything. Slims hit me really hard when that went
Yeah,
out, like right at the beginning of COVID. It was
totally.
like it felt like one of the first things to go, and I'm like, just so many shows that are growing up, and it's such a part of
Yeah,
my musical development, and growth, and and just
totally.
couldn't imagine it being gone, and it's just okay, it's gone.
No, it's such a bummer. That's actually I think that was the first show I ever saw in San Francisco, which I was like 14 at the time, and my sister was going to college there, and so I went up to visit her, and I made her take me to this show, which was like it was this band Kill Me Tomorrow and the Chinese Stars, which was like, yeah, I don't know, just a very specific time in music. Um, and yeah, I that was a very like yeah, I was 14 years old, just being like the first time seeing any bands play in San Francisco. My sister was just like, "Whoa, what is this place? What is this show?" She maybe have been to Slim's before, but anyways, yeah, that venue definitely was important to me for that reason. Like a very formative experience. Yeah, such a bummer. Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it's sad. It's just sad when these places close down, and the things that fill the void or fill the vacuum or whatever are just these bigger companies. I don't know. The classic talking point of venues. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. So tell me about the music you listened to growing up. Like, what was the vibe in your household? Your parents' influences on you at all musically?
Yes, yeah, totally. I mean, my parents were both really into a lot of different music. My dad was so my dad is the reason why I got into Black Sabbath, which is like kind of obviously a very pivotal influence for me. But it's funny because I feel like he was really into music when he was like a kid and a young adult, like, but when I was growing up, he wasn't really the music guy. The first guitar I played was his guitar that he had in eighth grade, but he never played past that. My mom always stayed into music. She was always listening to music in the car when she was cooking or whatever. And she listened to a lot of different things, but memorably, I feel like the two memorable ones for me with my folks is that, like, yeah, my dad. I remember one time my dad had a couple glasses of wine, and we were on this like houseboating trip with some other families, and someone, like, all of a sudden Fairies Wear Boots came on, and he was like air guitaring, and he was like, Charles, this is guitar, and that was such an iconic moment for me. I was like, whoa, because I think I was like 12 or 13 or something, and I was like, whoa, this is rad. And I could see it affecting my dad in this way where I was like, whoa, I've never seen that before. And my mom, you know famously would try to get me out of bed to go to high school by blasting Baba O'Reilly by The Who. Like that was just like what she was just like, just get up, get through this, you know. So those are like a few of the more iconic moments with my folks. But you know, they you know my they listened to a lot of different stuff, which was cool. And my sister, my older sister, also, you know, she listened to a lot of like classic hip hop and stuff that was definitely influential to me. But yeah, I feel like finding like, you know, punk music and punk culture as a teenager was the most informative experience I had, because I feel like, you know, classically that's when you kind of form your own identity. So it was really punk music, and then the kind of underground Los Angeles scene at the time that really really affected me the most. But I also feel lucky to have never really lost touch with a lot of the broader strokes of music that I really liked, and then finding friends of mine that also listened to a lot of different kinds of music, and we would exchange these things, you know, whether it was like a friend of mine who had never heard Crass before, but he's showing me James Brown live at the Apollo for the first time. You know what I mean? Like those things where I'm like, we're both just like, whoa, these are so cool for different reasons, you know? So I felt really lucky to always kind of have like a diverse catalog being thrown my way, you know? But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And did you gravitate to guitar or drums first?
Guitar, yeah. It's actually funny because my sister tried to learn guitar when she was, I don't remember how old she must have been, probably, you know, middle school, and pretty much gave up on it pretty quickly. But we had this acoustic guitar sitting around, so I kind of picked it up, and then I expressed interest, and I think I took my first guitar lesson when I was probably like 10 or so, and obviously too young to like really learn guitar, but it you know, basically it planted the seed, and I was always kind of into it. And then going back to it in middle school, that was really my first instrument. And then drums was more of a kind of out of necessity. I mean, obviously, what kid doesn't want to bash on drums, you know? It
Yeah.
always looks
Well, what
so fun to
parent
do.
will let them? What parent will
Exactly.
let them?
Well,
And exactly.
see, and that's the thing, is that I was lucky that my parents did let me, and they were reluctant, but that actually is what turned out to be this crazy turn in time, because, you know, the fact that I had a drum set and my parents were okay with it, me playing it in the basement, basically meant that I became the drummer for, you know, a handful of bands. And that was like when I started playing with, I mean, Ty was always a great drummer, obviously, since way, he was one of the first people I watched play drums that made me want to play drums when we were in high school. But yeah, then like playing music with Ty, playing with Michael, playing with all these people that like would come to my parents' house, and we would be in the basement just like playing music, always starting new bands, recording it like on my computer, like literally just into the like Mac computer in the corner of the room, no microphones or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like a huge turning point of having the drum kit. And then yeah, obviously that became a huge focus of mine, because playing drums is really fun. But it was then to kind of, you know, bring it back to the original thing, like those guys didn't even know I played guitar until we started some random band where like I forget who was even playing what, but like someone was like, oh, someone should do a guitar solo here. And I was like, they're like, you should do it. And I ripped this guitar solo, and Ty was like, whoa, dude, you play guitar. You know, this is when I was like, you know, 16 years old or whatever. Because at that point I played bass in a band with Ty, and I'd played drums in these other bands. So yeah, but yeah, guitar has always been my instrument. I feel like I love playing the drums, but guitar is my space, you know.
Yeah, yeah. T Tell me about the formation of your friendship with Ty and kind of how that started up. And you started bands in high school, and kind of tell me about that dynamic as you got started.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at first it started out as the kind of cliche teenager, creative, angsty teenagers that would see each other. Like, you know, Ty was 2 years older than me, so in high school years, that's, you know, an
It's a
eternity.
lot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I was very intimidated by him, and then later he would tell me that he was intimidated by me somehow, which I was like, I don't get that. But yeah, we would like just see each other at school, and like also, like I said, Ty was always, you know, he was always playing in bands ever since I knew him, and they would like do house shows and do these things. It was really like inspiring. And we were, at the same time, I was also starting bands and trying to go play places like The Smell in downtown LA, and they were doing the same thing. And eventually one of my like ridiculous high school bands played a house party at Michael Cronin's house, which his house was like the place for house shows. And through that, I started getting closer with like the kind of circle of people that was like Ty and Michael and a few other people that were like very formative friends of mine in high school. And for all of us, we'd all play music together. Um, but yeah, so then that's when I basically was asked to play bass in Ty's band at the time, Epsilons, and I joined them after they recorded their first record, and I recorded on the second record, and we started playing shows together. And then that was kind of from there, it just kind of was a snowball. And like I said, he was going to at this point he kind of moved to San Francisco going to college. My sister was living up there, so I would go up there and also visit my sister and hang out with Ty and go to see his bands play up there, like Traditional Fools and stuff. And yeah, then it just kind of turned into this thing where Ty and I pretty immediately saw in each other that we were on this similar page of like wanting to just write as many songs, start bands, play shows, go on tour, we just like wanted to do these things that felt like just the next, like we were on this trajectory. And obviously Ty is a very driven individual, so I saw in him, like I was like, I'm down to do all these things, so if you're gonna make it happen, like let's go, I got your back, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean that's kind of how it went from the beginning. And then our paths have obviously, like, we kind of weave like this, like we're always creating and we're always like playing together, but there's always these moments of kind of like step away, come back, step away, come back, ever since we were 16 years old. So
Yeah, I mean, you've been in so many bands with them, and you continue to be like, I mean, his Freedom Band, the Ty Segall Band, Gogs, is that what it's called?
Gogs, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Very random, nonsensical name, but yes.
Just like, so I'm really, it's really interesting to me because I mean the consistency between those bands is you two, and that dynamic. So tell me about, like, I guess, why do the bands keep reinventing themselves? Why are there different band names? That sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a funny one because I feel like that's been kind of the way we've operated. Like I said, since we were teenagers, like it was always about starting another thing and just writing music and being like, oh, this feels different. This is called this band now or something. And I think that's also because, like I was mentioning, like some of the house parties we would play in high school, like everyone was always kind of forming these bands almost as a joke, or just to play one show or something like that. But then later, I think that also became like a really fun and powerful like way to kind of release music into the world, especially in a place where people kind of, they need that kind of spark, like of like, oh, this is a new thing, this is a new thing, this is a new thing, like instead of it being like you're holding on to people's attention more, I think, when there's a new name and a new identity, on top of the fact that also there are different players in the game, like every different collaboration has a different set of people. So yeah, and I feel like with Ty, that was always a really brilliant thing he kind of latched onto early, is that, like, I think he recognized that he was going to have a really huge output as a solo musician, but that he also wanted to keep it interesting with people who were into his music by doing different things that weren't just like, here's another Ty Segall record, here's another, and because he obviously knew he was going to be making records. That guy can just write. So yeah, I think it was a pretty brilliant thing that really served a purpose for a long time there. And Gogs is also a very unique situation where, like, Chris Shaw from X-Cult and now Memo PST and other stuff. Him and Ty had talked about making that band for a while, and that was a very, like, unique project in that, right? And I was just excited when I got asked to join that as well, because I love Chris, and I loved when I knew that they were writing songs together. I was like, oh, this is gonna be really cool. I'm really excited to be a part of it. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a funny part of the whole universe, I guess. It's like, yeah.
It's not an automatic shoe in at this point for you to be invited to be a part of the band, huh?
I don't know. I don't know anymore. No, I mean, who knows? I think that for a while, yes, the answer was yes, but yeah, no, I think that also it's interesting how right now it does feel like we've all entered there's like a new chapter of creativity that we're all going into. And yeah, like everyone's kind of branching out a little bit. And no, I don't think it's a shoe in, and I think that's a good thing, because I was a shoe in for a long time. And I'll be happy when I'm there again. So
Keep you on your toes, working
Yeah,
working for
exactly,
it.
exactly.
Yeah. You did a European tour last year. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, the Fuzz tour.
Yeah.
That was really, yeah, that was a really fun tour. It was really intense. It was that was so the that tour was the first tour that we canceled for COVID.
Mm,
We were practicing for that tour when everything started shutting down. Like literally there was one practice where Ty went to pass the microphone to me and I was kind of like, I don't know, there's this thing going around. Like, should we be being careful? But he's like, oh, you don't want to share a mic with me? I was like, well, it's not that I don't want to share a mic with you. I just was like, I don't know. And he's like, yeah, okay. It's just like funny to think about that moment in time. Because then
mhm.
literally within like 2 days, like things were like closed. So anyways, uh, and obviously just on the record, I hope I didn't just make Ty sound like insensitive.
No,
It
not
was
at
just a
all, not
funny,
at all.
yeah, it was just a funny moment in time where we were all like being like, whoa, what is happening? Anyways, yeah, so it was crazy. Like that was the first thing we canceled, and that was the last thing that we made up. So it really felt like this weird like time in reverse thing where like all these things got canceled and then we started making up all these tour dates and there was just this one last thing that we had to achieve and it was the Fuzz Europe tour, um and so it felt really yeah, cathartic in a way, and also really it was really fun, but it was really challenging. I mean, that band is a challenging band to be on the road with for 3 weeks, 3+ weeks. It's exhausting, and it's just a lot, so it was a really fun tour. But yeah, it took a lot out of us, that we all got pretty, not all of us, but a few of us got pretty sick, like a really bad cold went through the van, and it was just like definitely an intense experience. But the shows were great, and yeah, it was really nice. I mean, I love playing that in that band and playing that music so much. So like, I always have a good time doing it. So yeah, it was really fun, and it was just yeah, like I said, intense to have that be the like last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What's a fond memory you have of life on the road? Something that happened that you just look back and you're like, that was really great or tragic, something that you
Oh
look back on
yeah.
and
I don't know. I feel like there's the most immediate for me with that is I just kind of have this like montage of like funny moments with your bandmates, like either one-on-one or all together, like cheersing a cup of coffee at like an amazing cafe and like Bordeaux and being like, whoa, this is cool. Like, the first I remember like the first couple times being on tour in Europe and being like, whoa, we made it here, and like having a cup of coffee with Ty on the side of the street and just being like, okay, I guess we're doing this now, which is beautiful. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I on that level, I do feel like the last Europe tour for Fuzz, like there was the show we played at Electric Ballroom, um, where it was one of the last show. It was the second to last show of the tour, and yeah, like I think the kind of the weight of that tour being this like I was saying, cathartic kind of ending of this intense chapter. And just looking at all the people there, and people were so excited to see us play, and we had booked the show like 4 years ago and we're finally playing it. That was a really standout moment for me, especially for that band, and where I feel like my life was at, like just kind of entering this like crossroads of decisions to make, and where my life was going creatively and musically. It's hard. I think it's hard to sum those experiences up, because especially when you've toured so much, and I don't even consider myself to be that extensive of a tour, have a tour history, but in reality I've toured a lot, and I've toured a lot with the same people, and so it's like I feel like I remember a lot about tours, but also there's this general feel. It's like a story arc that just kind of plants into your brain, where there's just this through line, and it's almost like an unspoken language where like these memories become intertwined, and you can pick apart these singular ones, but there's also just this general moment of being like, here we are again, and sometimes that's a positive thing, sometimes that's a negative thing, sometimes it's a funny thing, you're like, oh, here we are again, like, and or so it's like, I don't know, that's kind of my favorite part about touring with people, is that you do create this like, it's an ongoing story. It's kind of harder to delineate in like singular experiences, the longer you do it. Of course there are
yeah,
standout shows, standout moments, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. And as we look forward to 2024 and like in this album that's coming out tomorrow at this point, like what does this year look like for you? Are you continuing to write? Are you getting back together with Ty on some projects? What do we look
Yeah,
like ahead?
I'm definitely writing. Yeah, I'm really excited to have this record come out and kind of move on to the next one. And yeah, I have some shows coming up. I have like a West Coast tour. I'm playing
Hmm.
a show out in Joshua Tree next week. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as other stuff, like I'm trying to collaborate with more people. Like a friend of mine is like a hip hop, he's a rapper, so I'm trying to collaborate with him. That would be like a really big goal of mine because that's one of my favorite styles of music, and I've yet to like produce anything in that world. And I scored my cousin's short film that I'm really proud of. So that's like a nice, like exciting little journey to see how that'll unfold. Yeah, so like there's some things that are in the works, and in the meantime, stepping away from Ty's band has been, I'm still adjusting and still kind of figuring out like home life. And I started working as like a live sound engineer at a venue in town that I really love, Zebulon. It's like they're basically family. So yeah, just kind of like trying to settle into what this new moment is. And yeah, but I mean the goal is definitely to write. It's definitely to bring the band out on the road as much as possible and to just kind of keep going. I mean, I love writing and I love traveling, I love touring. So, the rest is like I'll figure it out. But yeah, those are the only guarantees of what I'm going to be doing. you know.
Yeah, that's a good approach.
Yeah.
But Charles, I want to thank you for taking the time today. Definitely appreciate it,
Oh,
and
thank you.
wishing you luck on the release and the tour that you got coming up and everything moving forward. It's an exciting new chapter for you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for the time.
That was my interview with Charles Moothart here on Concert Pipeline. And takes us to the next segment, which I'm going to talk about the Rocket Summer and Hellogoodbye concert. More so on the Hellogoodbye, and we'll save the Rocket Summer for next week. Hellogoodbye is a band that I've never seen live, but I dug their album. It actually came out in 2006. I didn't realize it was that late. I thought it was more around 2004, but their album Zombies, Aliens, Vampires, Dinosaurs. I liked that, and I picked it up from my buddy John, who I had gotten a lot of music from, and so there were some songs in there that I really dug and that stuck with me. One called "Here in Your Arms" was one that kind of hung around for years that I was a fan of. And like I said, I never got a chance to see them live, but they did a house shows tour, and we're looking at spots in the Bay Area to play. And I had offered up my mom's house, of her backyard, as a spot to play, which I would have held probably 50 people if you want to make it, right in front of a vineyard. It was a real cool spot. I remember going up to a room and taking pictures from the window and sending them in. I never heard back, so they didn't want to play in Napa at that point, apparently. And that was probably 12 years ago, maybe even more. I don't know that happened. But outside of that, I don't think I've ever seen them live. And so it was a good show. I mean, it was a one-man show. I went to the Cornerstone in Berkeley, and I didn't remember having been there before until part of the way through the concert. I remembered, oh yeah, this is where I saw Juliette Lewis and the Licks a couple of years ago, handful of years ago, I guess at this point, 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and had interviewed a band that opened the show. And it was at that venue. I didn't even remember having been to it there, but there was just a familiarity in the air. So the one man show led by Forrest Klein, and it was just him really playing songs mostly on an acoustic guitar, but he had a mixing machine also, and he did like a 35-minute set, not too long or anything, and he took a lot of requests from the crowd too. He just had a lot of people shout out what they wanted to hear, and one fan in particular that he knew, he took a couple of requests from. I believe the second to last song that he played was really the only one that I was the most familiar with that I remembered, "Here in Your Arms." So let's go ahead and let's play "Here in Your Arms" by Hellogoodbye. was Here in Your Arms by Hellogoodbye, and it was fun. I wasn't expecting him to do a Spanish version of the chorus. I don't think he did the full version of the song, but I enjoyed that little piece of nostalgia from almost 20 years ago at this point. Crazy. We're gonna play one more song at the end of the show. From Hellogoodbye's set at Cornerstone in Berkeley. But now let's get to the final segment on the program, the music news. All right. First story is about Ben Folds. He is bringing back his paper airplane request tour this summer, and it's a solo shows across the U.S. starting May 30th. Initially began years ago as a request for songs, as encores will once again to be a central element in his shows when he engages audiences to make their song requests via paper airplanes. So he has people throw out paper airplanes up on stage, I guess, and then I'll play the song. He said the last time I did this on tour, the response was overwhelming, with literally hundreds of paper airplanes with song requests being launched on cue from fans at the start of the second half of each of my concerts. It's the purest, most low-tech form of engagement that creates a special bond with my audiences. That's so cool. I never heard about that. I never heard that he was actually doing that. His most recent album, What Matters Most, had critical acclaim. Let's see. He'll also be featured in a special PBS broadcast this spring that spotlights his ongoing Declassified Ben Folds Presents concert series he curates. But this tour is going to go throughout the summer through June, one July date and a couple of August dates. None of them here in California, so he's not hitting the West Coast really on this tour. But I really respect that he's doing that. That's a cool tour, and put some way to put yourself out there and just let the fans decide what you're going to play and try and remember songs that you've done when you have such an expansive career. It's so cool. Okay. Slash has announced a new star-studded blues album, Orgy of the Damned. The Guns N' Roses guitarist also shared lead single Killing Floor with AC/DC's Brian Johnson and Aerosmith's Steven Tyler. So they're, I think, on harmonica duties, which is awesome. Like, you just have Steven Tyler and Brian Johnson on harmonica. I don't know if they sing or anything. I don't know. I haven't heard it, but it's great. And he's also going to play with guests such as Iggy Pop, Chris Stapleton, Demi Lovato, Chris Robinson of oh my gosh, why am I the brothers Robinson Brothers, Black Crowes, Beth Hart, who I interviewed many years ago and had seen live and met a couple of times over the years, and Billy Gibbons, excuse me. He's also set to cover several blues standards, such as Robert Johnson's Crossroad Blues, Albert King's Born Under a Bad Sign, Willie Dixon's Hoochie Coochie Man, and more. So there's a whole track list available online, but lots of guest stars in that album, and that is pretty cool. We mentioned Brian Johnson, but while we're talking about AC/DC, there's a biopic that based on late AC/DC singer Bon Scott that's in the works. The movie titled The Kid from Harvest Road has cast its lead role, and it's a movie out of Australia, I guess. It's not going to be a faithful retelling of Scott's life, but rather a fictionalized narrative set in the 1960s. They're going to have a loose retelling, and the movie can offer a more imaginative exploration of Scott's character and experiences. Focusing on his formative years in Fremantle allows for a deeper dive into the influences and events that shaped him as a person, and ultimately as the iconic frontman of AC/DC. So they're getting creative with it. Australian actor Lee Tiger Halley, who stars in Netflix's Boy Swallows universe, he's going to play Scott and the Kid from Harvest Road, and they're in pre-production now, so there's no release date, but it's in the works. Okay. Marilyn Manson has announced his first tour since the sexual abuse allegations. He's set to open for Five Finger Death Punch on a U.S. run later this year. Luckily for Manson, I don't think he has to prepare for any of his shows, because I've seen him a couple times, once or twice at least, and it doesn't feel like he puts any effort into preparing. He just kind of goes up on stage and wings it. But he's going to do a string of dates across North America in August and September. And controversial deathcore band Slaughter to Prevail, whose frontman Alex Terrible has expressed homophobic and transphobic views, also set to open for them. Wow, okay, we're getting really controversial on this tour, just bringing everybody who's been canceled out on the tour. Okay, so the sexual abuse allegations were leveled against him in February 2021, including by his ex-fiancée, Evan Rachel Wood, who made allegations of rape, torture, and threats. Since then, separate claims of abuse from more than 12 women have also been made. Numerous lawsuits have ensued, with him constantly denying the allegations. Manson brought a defamation case against Wood in 2022, but the case's key claims were dismissed last May. Some parts of the case are still pending, and a trial is set for May 1st of this year. In January, he was ordered to pay Wood's legal fees, roughly $326,000. And in addition, it was reported last month that Manson will pay the legal fees of artist Lama Gore, who is named as a second defendant and described as Wood's on-again, off-again romantic partner in a defamation lawsuit. Gore is owed $160,000, bringing Manson's total to $500,000. So I guess he's got a tour. He's got some bills to pay. I mean, there's other accusers as well that are part of that. So go see it if you want. Go see that tour. Okay. And then I want to close just with some open thoughts on the new Bleachers album, self-titled Bleachers. I gave it a listen over the course of yesterday and today, and there are parts of it that I like and parts of it that just don't resonate. And I mentioned in last week's episode that I really want to be a Bleachers fan. I love their debut album, Strange Desire, a lot, and even into their second album, Gone Now, which was decent. There were good parts of it for sure. This one was very calm and very, it's a lot slower than his past albums. And I went on Reddit to kind of see what fans' feelings were, and more than not, fans liked it. There were a couple that kind of desired the feeling of Strange Desire, the initial Bleachers album, which are in the same camp that I am in, but a lot of people really liked it. So I'll probably give it another listen. I want to understand it. I want to like it. He's done so much great work, and I know obviously he's renowned for producing other female artists that have been smash hits, and that doesn't mean it's for me. But Bleachers is a band that and Jack Antonoff's work across his career, in his bands that he's in, I've been a fan of. Fun. And Steel Train, I love Steel Train. And so I want to continue to like Bleachers, but I just keep thinking of okay, if I were to ever see Bleachers again, I'm getting farther and farther away from seeing a show with mostly Strange Desire songs in the set list. There's going to be other songs that have to be played and the fans like, and you have to build into it. It's getting farther and farther away from what I want to see in a Bleachers show. So I just got to keep those memories of when I saw them live and when it was mostly Strange Desire or Gone Now. So that's just my open kind of feelings about that. So that is our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. Next week on the program, we are going to have Cinders on the show, a band from Utah, Salt Lake City in Utah, and we had all three members: Montana Smith, Adrian De La Cruz, and Brad Bennett, and that was a fun chat. I really had a good time with that one. So looking forward to sharing that, as well as a couple of songs from the Rocket Summer set. And get to talk about that portion of the show. We're going to close out with one more song from Hellogoodbye's set at Cornerstone in Berkeley. And it was one that was a total surprise to me because they closed out with this song. And it was, again, just a one man band. This is Touchdown Turnaround, Don't Give Up on Me, off of that same album from 2006. And it was such a blast. I mean, it was such a great way to go out. Forrest really brought the energy and brought out balloons and so much fun. So we're going to close out with that song. For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next.
I never knew you.